No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
And good morning, this is Mike Lodge. Here we go again. I am the business advisor, and today we're going to be talking about business and some other issues, but mostly about business. I hope, anyway. If I can keep my mind focused. I have been so busy over the last couple of days in dealing with client issues and taxation issues for clients and working on solving the various concerns that individuals have, that I found it that I'm being moved from subject to subject, and sometimes it's hard to keep focused on what actually needs to be done instead of worrying about all these other things that are out there that may not or may affect you or my client, I should say. But the questions are out there because they're concerned because of the economy and the inflation and the recession that's coming up, what's happening within their businesses and everything else. So I can understand they're concerned, and all these things are popping up in their mind. I understand that. So I'm trying to take care of it one problem at a time, and that's what I do. That's the job that I perform for my clients. One of the reports I came to read this morning, as I was preparing for my session with you, and it concerns me. CNBC ran a report on the state of how you, as an individual, are handling your personal finances. They came up with this quote and said almost 6 in 10 U.S. adults are living paycheck to paycheck. That means that you have absolutely no savings, you have no emergency funds, you have nothing. 58% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and another 70% say they are stressed over the financial households that they're running. They have no confidence in their finances, which is sad, because that means that they're not preparing or planning or budgeting for their personal finances. More than half of Americans, 53%, say they do not have an emergency fund, while 40% of those who do have less than $10,000. Now, in practice, we try to get you guys to build up to 1,000, and then slowly but surely get up to the 10,000, so that you have an emergency fund. That an emergency fund is not for vacations. It's not to go out and buy a new dress for something else. It's not to go out and buy a new car. These emergency funds are in case of tire pops, in case something happens with your electrical system in the house, or a water burst. It's an emergency. Exactly that. It's an emergency. So a lot of you do not even have an emergency fund set up. Seniors are more likely than younger adults to have an emergency fund, with 68% of Americans who are 65 or older saying they have one, compared to almost a third of Americans who are 18 to 34 saying they do, 32%. Men are also more likely than women to have an emergency fund. 50% of men versus 41% of women. Now, I would have thought that women would have been higher, because in the past, women have always had the financial control, if you want to say, about the finances of the house. But if it's now down to 41%, what happened to the women? You guys used to be good about this, especially in Asian households. The women in Asian households control the finances. But I read a report this morning, though, that's changing. They are now saying that the most of the young adults in China are living paycheck to paycheck. They are spending more on stuff than putting money into the bank. Now, that never used to be the case. People were always saving money in Asia. They were always saving money. They were the best savers ever. Now it's changing. Now let's get back to the U.S. By and large, financial struggling U.S. adults point to continued high inflation as the main culprit for their liquid cash situation, the survey said by CNBC. Individuals living on a paycheck-to-paycheck existence are also more likely to blame high credit card debt, no emergency savings, and high student loan and health care costs. Now, I'm going to stop right there, okay? To use a credit card, that's a decision you make. To not save your money, that's a decision you make. To blame it on inflation as the main culprit, that's partly a good excuse, except you have choices to make on your own personal finances to get you so that you have some stability. If you're living from paycheck to paycheck, you need to sit down and you need to start planning your finances. I give this lecture almost on a weekly basis, that you need to sit down, put together a budget. I even have a budget in my, if you go to www.lodge-co.com, and if you go to Business Advisory, there is an Excel spreadsheet that's free of charge. I'm not charging anything for it, that you can create your budget and monitor how much you're spending against that budget. It's free. Use it. So it says, by and large, financial struggling U.S. adults point to the continued high inflation and the main culprit for their liquid cash situation, the survey reports. Now, that is true because if you look at income has not stayed in the same realm as inflation. Inflation's higher. So things are costing you more than what you're actually earning. I know it's a sad situation. We've talked about it how many times? So many times, right? There's also a major disconnect between the political and cultural ruling class and Main Street Americans that continues to widen. Well, now we're getting into politics, right? Now, why they put that in there, I don't know, because it has nothing to do with how you and I are using our money. The sources and uses of funds. That's what we call it in accounting. Sources and uses of funds. Money that is coming in and how we are sourcing it out in our expenses. And if we're smart, we sit down and we say, okay, in order to save, in order to create an emergency fund, I am going to have to cut this, and this. Individuals living on a paycheck-to-paycheck existence are also more likely to blame the credit card debt. Now listen, that's a decision that you made to use that credit card. And you knew that when you use it, it was going to become a debt. So we have a situation where Americans, it could be you, I'm not quite sure, but it could be, not quite sure. But we have this thought process that says, I will survive anything. Somebody's going to come and bail me out. Someone's going to give me a stimulus. Someone's going to... When you had a stimulus coming in, most of Americans misused it. They didn't use it for everyday living or to put money in the bank. No, what did they do? They went out and they bought cars. They went out and bought houses. And these are items that they couldn't afford after they get off the stimulus plan. So now we're in a situation where the stimulus has all ended. All of these goody money into your hand is no longer there. And now you have to come to the realization, okay, I've got to meet a $1,000 car payment. My home costs have gone up. It's costing me more to manage that home. Costs about $17,500 on a yearly basis to upkeep your home, and those prices are going up. So we come back to the same point, the same logical point that we need to be at, is that you need to sit down and create your budget. If you have no budget, you have no plan for your financial future. You don't care. You don't care how your money's leaving your hands. This is what's happening in China at the moment. These young people are no longer saving. They're going out and they're spending and spending. They're going out and eat. They're going out and dance. They're going to the clubs. They're buying the signature brands. They're doing all this stuff. And now they have no money left in their bank account. They're down to that $35 for the remaining of the month. And guess what? They've got to manage that $35 to buy a loaf of bread or to buy something to eat for 2 whole weeks until they get paid again. So here we have a situation in China where they are now living from paycheck to paycheck. And that's stupid. And it's stupid for us as Americans to be doing that too. Now, I understand, and we all understand, that inflation kicked us in the stomach. And it knocked the wind out of a lot of us. But we had to pull back and say, okay, I can no longer go to the movies. I can no longer go out and eat in restaurants like I used to be able to. I can no longer do a lot of things that cost a lot of money that I can no longer do because the inflationary part of it outweighs what money that we have in our hand or in your bank account or until that next paycheck rolls in. I hate to sound harsh to you guys, but I have to because it's something that you guys need to do. Every single month I sit down with my budget and I put in the numbers that I actually spend against my budget. And if I've got money left over, I pat myself on the back and I say, Mike, you did a good job. Because no one else is going to say it. So I have to say it myself. But this is the problem. We are not acting responsibly with our finances. If you need help, set up an appointment with me online and we can go through your budget one-on-one. If you want to set up an appointment, you can schedule time with me at www.lodge.co.com. If you have a business question, send it to me because I answer it for free at thebusinessadvisor@gmail.com. Again, that's thebusinessadvisor@z, as in zebra, zmail.com. Send it to me. But let's listen, we're done with the first quarter of 2023. And now we're on to the second quarter. In fact, we're halfway through the month of the second quarter. So let's really focus on this. Let's put on our big pants, our big boy pants and big girl dresses and let's sit down and focus on our finances. We have some ability to do that. And if you need an advisor like me to go through it with you, I'm more than happy to do it. Book a scheduled appointment with me. Again, that's www.lodge.co.com. Everybody go out and have a great day. This is Mike Lodge. I'm sorry I bitched at you, but I'm going to keep bitching at you until you finally have some money in your hand. This is Mike Lodge. Bye-bye.